Butler County, Pennsylvania, a heartland community, a stronghold of Trump support. July 4, 2024, was supposed to be a day of celebration, a day for fireworks and parades. Instead, it became a day seared into the memory of the nation. The day terror struck Trump country, a day when an attempt was made on the life of former President Donald Trump. The community had gathered for a rally. Thousands of fervent supporters, their faces painted red, white, and blue, had come to hear their champion speak. The air was thick with anticipation, the ground vibrating with chants of USA, USA. And then, the unthinkable. Gunshots, screams, chaos. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as the reality of the situation sunk in. This was not a firecracker, this was not a prank. This was an assassination attempt. As the initial shock gave way to panic, a mad scramble for safety ensued. Parents shielded their children, strangers clung to each other, and the crowd surged away from the direction of the gunfire. The festive atmosphere evaporated, replaced by a chilling fear that gnawed at the hearts of those present. The day that began with patriotic fervor had descended into a nightmare. The shockwaves from the shooting reverberated through Butler County and beyond. This quiet corner of Pennsylvania, known for its rolling hills and friendly people, had become the epicenter of a national crisis. The images of the chaos, the terrified faces, and the frantic search for the shooter were beamed across the world, leaving an indelible stain on the community's sense of peace and security. For Jim Hewlings, a lifelong resident of Butler County and a staunch Trump supporter, the events of that day were deeply unsettling. "I never thought something like this could happen here," he said, his voice shaking with emotion. "This is a peaceful community. We look out for each other. To think that someone would try to kill the president right here in our backyard, it's just unbelievable." The shooting left many in the community grappling with a range of emotions: fear, anger, confusion, and a profound sense of vulnerability. The idea that even in their own town, surrounded by their own people, they were not safe from the threat of violence was a bitter pill to swallow. The incident had shaken their sense of security to its core, leaving behind a residue of fear and uncertainty. In the aftermath of the shooting, questions swirled like vultures over a carcass. How did the shooter manage to penetrate the security perimeter? Were there intelligence failures? Was this a lone wolf attack, or were there others involved? The investigation, spearheaded by the Secret Service and local law enforcement, was swift and thorough, but the answers, when they came, did little to quell the public's unease. It emerged that the shooter, Thomas Crooks, a 29-year-old drifter with a history of mental instability and a venomous hatred for Donald Trump, had exploited a series of security lapses to gain access to the rally. A drone, flown by an accomplice, had distracted security personnel, while a breakdown in communication between different agencies had created a vulnerability that Crooks had ruthlessly exploited. The revelations of the investigation sent shockwaves through the nation. The Secret Service, tasked with protecting the lives of the president and other high-profile figures, had failed. The incident exposed glaring vulnerabilities in the security apparatus, raising serious questions about whether enough was being done to protect public figures from the threat of violence in an increasingly polarized and volatile political climate. Section 4. A hero's sacrifice, a community's grief. Amidst the tragedy and the finger-pointing, one story of extraordinary courage and sacrifice emerged. Corey Comparatore, a 25-year-old Iraq war veteran, had been attending the rally with his family. When the first shots rang out, Corey, without hesitation, threw himself over his pregnant wife and young daughter, shielding them from the hail of bullets. Corey's actions that day saved his family, but at a terrible cost. He was struck multiple times and died at the scene. His wife and daughter, physically unharmed but emotionally scarred, were left to grapple with the loss of their husband and father, a hero who had given his life to protect theirs. The community rallied around the Comparatore family, offering support and solace in their time of unimaginable grief. Helen Comparatore, Corey's mother, spoke of her son's bravery with a mixture of pride and unbearable sadness. "He was always there for us," she said, her voice breaking. "He was our protector. He died a hero, saving his family. But God, I miss him so much." Section 5. Healing the wounds, seeking justice. In the weeks and months that followed the shooting, Butler County began the slow and painful process of healing. The community came together to mourn the loss of Corey Comparatore and to support his grieving family. Candlelight vigils were held, funds were raised, and messages of love and support poured in from across the country. The shooting also sparked a national debate about gun control, security measures, and the toxic political climate that had contributed to the incident. Some called for stricter gun laws, arguing that the easy availability of firearms made tragedies like this inevitable. Others pointed to the need for enhanced security measures at public events and a greater focus on mental health. The shooting in Butler County was a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present threat of violence in a deeply divided society. It was a wake-up call, a tragic reminder that words have consequences and that hatred left unchecked can have devastating consequences. Section 6. Trump's return, a test of resilience. Donald Trump, physically unscathed but undoubtedly shaken by the attempt on his life, vowed to return to Butler County, to the very site of the shooting, for a rally. His announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some applauded his defiance, his refusal to be cowed by violence. Others questioned the wisdom of returning to a place so closely associated with trauma and division. The rally, held under a heavy security presence, was a tense affair. The crowd, smaller than the one that had gathered on that fateful July 4th, was a mix of die-hard Trump supporters and curious onlookers. Trump, in his speech, paid tribute to Corey Comparatore, hailing him as a true American hero. He spoke of the need for unity and healing but also railed against his political opponents, accusing them of stoking the flames of division and hatred. Trump's return to Butler County was a test of the community's resilience, a measure of how far they had come in healing the wounds of that terrible day. It was a reminder that even in the face of unspeakable tragedy, life goes on, and that the human spirit, though wounded, has an extraordinary capacity for resilience and renewal.